face and a sparkle in her eyes and a laugh in her heart. When you are with Sue, you realize that her energy, enthusiasm, and encouraging spirit are catching. Sue's going to share a story she uses in every speech, seminars, and training programs that she presents. Let's welcome Sue Pistone.
Thank you. Teresa asked us to do 7 minutes of our best, and unfortunately I don't have 7 minutes that just something to share with you. So what I wanted to do was share with you this story because my most requested topic is how you can create 2 hours in your day to spend any way you want. And that's through organization, and I can't teach you how to get organized in 7 minutes. So what I do is I'm going to share a story that I use, and I use this goal card. And I'm going to just kind of to intercept this with information for you as a speaker. Whenever you speak, always leave something that has your name, your number on it, your email address, your website, always. Even if they don't write on it, just like Jimmy has today and I have, and just always leave something for them. So everyone always gets a goal card, and I never want to leave home without your goal card. And so what I'll do is I'll have shared with them how to get organized so that they can have this 1 to 2 extra hours a day. And they'll use 2 of the strategies. They'll write down 2 of the strategies. And then number 3 will be the commitment that they've made, whether it's in the speech or it's in the seminar or it's one-on-one coaching. So they'll write down the commitment, and in this case it would be the day that they're actually going to get organized. That's the commitment. Now, they're real excited by this point because they really believe they can do it, all right? And so then I tell them that what happens is on the day they're going to get organized, they're going to go to their office, they have all their supplies, they are so excited because they know all the benefits that they're going to receive. And then about halfway through, they're going to go, oh my gosh, what did I get into? I am never going to get rid of all these piles. I wish I had never heard Sue Pistone's name. Now I want to share with you why I say I wish I'd never heard Sue Pistone's name. I learned that from Jimmy Cabrera. When I owned a real estate company, before I became a speaker, Jimmy promoted Tom Hopkins. And he would come to our office to promote Tom's seminar, and when he left, what I remembered more than anything else was the name Jimmy Cabrera, because he would say it in his presentation several times. So that's another tip that you should use as a speaker. Reference yourself. And so I'll say, oh, you'll wish you'd never heard Sue Pistone's name. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a tip, something that will help you get excited, enthused, and refocused. And I'm going to tell you how I learned to do that. Years ago, I was asked to teach at the University of Houston. Now, this is in the early 80s. I had a real estate company. I had started doing a little bit of free speaking. My company was real successful. And another teacher got me approved to teach. She recommended me. I was so excited because I only have a high school diploma. I'm totally self-taught. And so I get to the school, and I'm getting ready for it, getting my book, and I asked one of the teachers, I said, the only thing is I have one little problem. I don't know how to teach. What do you do? She goes, oh, honey, don't worry. All you have to do is read to them. So, shoot, I can do that. Okay, so I want you to think back to your college days or your high school days, to the most boring subject you ever took. That is the principles of real estate, and that is what I was teaching. So now I go into this class all excited. It's a hot Saturday in August, in a room much smaller than this with 45 adults. I read to them for 8 hours, word for word. A couple of years later, 2 guys walked into my marketing class. They saw me and went, oh no. And then at break they came up and said, Sue, I can't believe how great you are. We left that first day at first break and you never missed us. And he's right, I never looked up from that book. Okay, so now I'm on the way home and I am not happy. I am very upset. I don't want to teach principles anymore. I don't like those people and they don't like me. And I'm thinking, I'm just going to quit. I'm not going to do it. And as I get to my driveway, I'm thinking, you know what, Sue, you're not a quitter. I'm going to go back and I'm going to learn to teach principles so well I never have to do it again. So the next morning I'm up and I'm driving to the University of Houston and I'm excited because I've made this commitment. And then it dawns on me, I still don't know how to teach and they still hate me. So what am I going to do? And I had been to a seminar a couple of years earlier where this instructor had said, you know, whenever you feel down and low, all you have to do is snap your fingers and say these magic words and you'll feel great. Well, I don't know about you, but typically speakers, and especially me, are not good audience participants. And so I sat there and listened to her and thought, oh, how hokey. I'm not doing that. And here's what I found. Even though we don't do it right when we hear it, it's a seed that's been planted. And one day when you need it, it's in your mind and it'll come back to you. And so I'm driving down the street and I said, okay, now I remember you snap your fingers because that's the physical trigger telling your subconscious mind you're changing state. But I don't know what those words were. Okay, I'll just make them up. I'm great. I'm terrific. I'm the best. And I'm going, that doesn't feel right. I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute. And this is something else Jimmy had taught us. It was that repetition is the motherhood of learning. I said, okay, so that means I got to do it over and over. I'm great, I'm terrific, I'm the best. Still not getting it. Thinking, maybe I should tell my face. Okay, I'm great, I'm terrific, I'm the best. I'm great, I'm terrific, I'm the best. I am so good, I'm going to do a great job for them today. And whether I knew how to teach or not, when I walked in that door, that enthusiasm came before me and it excited me and excited them. Now, you can use this too, but you'll never know it till you do it. So everybody stand up. And we're going to do this 3 times. The first time to teach you the words, the second time to practice, and the third time to make them wonder what we're doing in the Norris Center. Are you ready? Well, stack your fingers. 1, 2, 3. I'm great. I'm terrific. I'm the best. I'm great. I'm terrific. I'm the best. I'm great. I'm terrific. I'm the best. And you are. Give yourselves a hand. Now let me ask you a question. I know that you're already an energetic and enthusiastic group because you're speakers, but don't you even feel a little bit better right now? It just really pumps you up. Now I use this and I use it all the time. I use it anytime before I speak just to get that energy up. I use it before I go into a difficult negotiating situation. I use it anytime when I feel just a little down or a little out. And all you have to do is snap those fingers, say those words, and you can do it under the table. Nobody knows you're doing it. But what happens is your shoulders just perk up a little bit and you just get that enthusiasm inside and it really works well. And so that's what I want to share with you today. And now then I'll turn it back over to Teresa and we'll hear from another speaker. Thank you so much.
I'm great, I'm terrific, I'm the best. I love me. Okay, speaker number 2 is going to be our other emeritus member, which is Jimmy Cabrera. And all he wanted me to say about him is that he's been speaking for 30 years. I wouldn't admit that, will you? 30 years. That's good. That's great. 30 years, he speaks mainly to the educational as well as corporate fields. And he's terrific, he's the best. Jimmy Cabrera.
Thank you. I'm going to go without a mic, or should I go to the mic? Which one?
Better.
I know it is. The what of your future is determined by the why in your present. Those words have rang in my ears for years, and when I discovered my why, my whole life changed. Why is it you want to be in this business? That's something that you cannot define in just 2 seconds, in my opinion. It takes a while to process. You have to grow and make sure you discover, why am I doing this? And I think the best way to discuss this is maybe take it through a story. My story impacted me. I've customized maybe my personality. But the story is about 2 guys. You don't have to make a decision. When you leave here, or you leave the next time you're speaking somewhere, you leave, you get home, you leave home. In life, whether it's 10 years, 5 years, or 20 years, when it's all over, you're going to be 2 people, and the 2 people are, number 1, the guy, his name is, I'm sure glad I did it. And the second guy, his name is, I wish I did it. You're going to be one of these 2 individuals in life, in the speaking world. Let me take you back about these 2 guys here. They're in junior high. In the middle school, they're sitting in the stadium, and they're watching all their classmates run track. They're running around the track, they're running around. And I'm sure God had said to his buddy, you know what, someday we can run fast enough, we can win, we'll win state, we'll win nationals, and we can go to the Olympics. But I wish that it said, are you crazy? In Spanish, they say, "Estás loco?" We're never that good. We live in a small town. We'll never be that good. And then all of a sudden, I'm sure God didn't say, you know what, I'm going to work hard. And he did. He went out there and started working by himself. And he ran around. He won state nationals. And all of a sudden, he's a senior in high school. And they invited him to run and try to qualify for the Olympics in the 400 meters. And he made it. But every time he won, help me out, he was always saying, I'm sure glad I did. Well, all of a sudden he gets to the Olympics, and it's in Europe, and he gets up there and starts running, and he gets out there and he looks at the stadium, and he wins his preliminary trials, and he goes to quarterfinals and semifinals, and here he is. He qualifies to be in the finals for the 400 meters and represent the red, white, and blue. He gets up there. And the stadium is full, probably 100,000 people up there. 100,000 in a stadium, maybe more. But all he can hear is his heart pounding. Everything's focused. And he's like, I paid my dues to be at this moment. I'm not sure if anybody here watched track, but I love track and field. And all of a sudden he gets up there, and then the starter says, set! And all of a sudden the gun goes off, and he starts running. And he learned that you got to hug that line. He goes around the first curve, and he keeps going around, and all of a sudden he comes to the last curve. And all of a sudden he looks straight ahead. Everybody's cheering, but all he hears is what? His heart just thumping, coming out of his chest. And all of a sudden he gets up there, and all of a sudden he just throws his arms up, not knowing what happened. And everybody runs to him. The sound is deafening, and they hug him and say, you won, you won. And all I can say is, please help me. I'm sure glad. Have you seen the ceremonies? You got the gold and bronze, and he gets up there and they call the people, and they call him up there, and he sits up there on the gold medal stand, nods his head as they place the gold medal around his neck. And all of a sudden he hears a sound in the distance. He looks over there, and they're raising the flag of the red, white, and blue of the great land, of this land of America. They raise the flag and they play the national anthem. He hears it. And all of a sudden, he just can't handle the emotion anymore. I couldn't, could you? Tears coming out of his eyes. It's, thank you, Lord, thank you. He goes, I made it, I made it, I made it. God help me. And all he says, I'm sure glad I did. And the song's over. And the guy says, hey, please come down. He goes, no, I like it right here. He's going to be like you and I when we speak. I promise you that. You will get your standing ovations. Am I correct? And sometimes you won't. But you see, once you finish speaking, you've got to start planning for what? The next one. He comes back to the States. He goes back to college. And in college goes by this, he has his friend. They go to school together. And mother, you remember his friend? What was his name? I wish I did. And he sees this empty gas station. And he buys it, borrows money from his dad, and he buys it, and all of a sudden, he buys 2, and then 3, and all of a sudden he has a friend. He said, friend, why don't you come with me? Why don't you be my partner? I wish they said, no, forget, I can't do that kind of stuff, man. I got finals coming up. I got to worry about my degree. But I'm sure brother went out there and he bought this or this, and before you know it, he had several of them. Before you know it, he had many. And all of a sudden, he had this. Maybe, you know what I'll do? I think I'll franchise this thing. Called his friend because his friend was a financial wizard. But his friend again said, no, my wife's pregnant. We got 3 children. I don't think I can do this right now. But I'm sure brother went out and did it anyway. And he became a multi-millionaire. Then all of a sudden, he had an idea. He kind of got bored. You see, in our business, I promise you, you might get what? Bored of doing the same thing over and over and over. Have you been there? If you haven't, welcome to speaking. And all of a sudden, he got an idea. He's on this open territory. You know what I'll buy all his land? I'm going to build a great mall. Maybe it's Houston. I'll call it the Galleria. But his friends laughed at him, and all of a sudden he called his friend, and he said, no, come with me. I'll give you some stock options. You're the financial wizard. You come with me right now. I wish they said, no, I can't do that. I'm sure they took off, and he did it himself. And he built it, and he built a $1 billion business. And every time he turned around, all he could say is, what? I'm sure glad I did. Well, all of a sudden, please don't get as old as these two guys, would you please? All of a sudden, he's 90 years old. 90 years old. Come like me today, and it's been 30 years, okay? And all of a sudden, he goes up there, and he's still everything, and he's retired, he can't drive anymore, but he volunteers to go to VA to help him out. And he walks out of his place, and he sits by the bench right there, and he's waiting for the bus to come by to pick him up. You ever notice people that are seniors, what do they do when they get old? Help me out. They rock. I don't know why. Someday I'm gonna rock too, okay? And when suddenly he knows someone sits next to him. He turned and recognized him. He goes, don't tell me who you are. I wish they did. Yeah, I'm sure glad they did. They haven't seen each other in 40 years. 40 years. They get up and they embrace each other, hug each other, and say, wow, thank you. Where have you been? And all of a sudden there's a pause. And I wish I didn't start speaking. And I said, you know what, friend? Throughout my life, you gave me many opportunities. I listened to great marketing tips. I went to all these conventions. You know, I didn't get to where I wanted to be. I guess I'm sure. I wish I would have done something with all the things I learned. And there was a pause. And so I'm sure glad I did got up. He says, you know what, friend? I don't know what. Let's say this is a pinch. I don't know if you know this. Senior people. He was excited. Thank you. I'm great. Everything. That's what he said. I'm great. I'm terrific. He got up and he goes like this. He walks around that bench. He goes, look at me. I can't move fast, but I can move. He says, you know what, friend? If I had it all over again, all I can say is, I'm sure glad I did. What's the moral story? Is this right here? Here's what I'm going to ask you right now, fellow members of this great organization. This is, next time you see me on the freeway right here, on 10 or 288 or 45 or 59, wherever you see me, maybe here, or like you said, Mike, in New York when you see a friend like Ed, or you see me at the convention, what I want you to do is kind of get my attention, would you please? Kind of wave at me and give me one of those good winks, would you please? Because as you nod your head, you're telling me I'm placing the gold medal around your neck, and you're telling me I'm sure glad I did. The what of your future is determined by the what? The why. And you got this little card in front of you, am I correct? You notice the backside, at the top, what does it say on the little card? Help me out. And right next to it, what's it say? Why? Here's my challenge for you right now, fellow speakers. When you write down your why, people ask me why I do this, and I'll share with you in a few minutes through the panel. I know my why. I know why I do this. Because I want everybody always to tell me from now on. One more time together. Ready? I'm sure what? Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy Cabrera. Thank you. Is this fascinating, all these different styles? While Karen gets set up here, I'm going to say a couple of words about our little rock star. She looks like a rock star too, doesn't she? Karen McCullough, national keynote speaker, author, branding expert, social media enthusiast, and a Gen X and Gen Y evangelist. Karen McCullough is one of Houston's busiest speakers. With extensive experience in successful retail, Karen began speaking only in the year 2000, and in just 12 years, her clients include corporate giants such as McGraw-Hill, Procter & Gamble, Exxon, Shell, and the U.S. Department of Justice, just to name a few.
The FBI.
And the FBI. Woo. Please welcome Karen McCullough.
Thank you. Well, I am, I guess, a self-proclaimed branding expert. No one ever gave me an award on that. And so I thought today I would show you a little bit of what I do with branding. And so I decided that I would customize it just for you guys. So, anybody recognize anybody out there? A lot of those people you aren't going to know. These are famous keynoters right now. The business is changing. I started in 2000, and only Connie Podesta was the only person that was up there back then. Now, look at these young, darling little faces. I see them all over, and they take on the center stage. And so I'm here today to kind of reinvent you, to kind of get you excited about your brand, to kind of get you into 2012, 2013, and hopefully when I'm done, maybe you're going to rock. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions, okay? The first question that I'm going to ask you is, what does your audience think of when your name is mentioned? Picture yourself, you're on the stage right now. You're just finishing your last story. You're done. They are applauding, maybe a standing O, I'm not sure, but they liked you, they loved you, right? You're in the lavatory, ladies' room, men's room, and they're talking about you. What are they saying? You need to know this. You need to know, because what you think you are, that's fine. But that is not your brand. Branding is what your audience thinks of you. Branding is what those decision makers think of you. And so today in my 7 to 8 minutes, I'm going to try to capture a little bit of branding for you, teach you a little bit about branding, and when I'm done, hopefully get your mind open and stimulated. Because you've got to know, number one, who is your competition? I was asked this question a few years back. I was with a branding expert here in Houston, and she said, Karen, who's your competition? I said, oh, I don't think I have any. And she looked at me and she started laughing. She said, oh, so they want a speaker. Oh, wait, Karen McCullough. And that's it, right? And I went, no, probably not. She goes, here's what they do. There's 20 of you. 20 pictures are spread out in a conference room. And they're looking at your photo. They're watching your video. They're reading your bio. They're looking at the topics that you have. And they're deciding who they're going to bring, who they're going to risk. Because that person that hires you is taking a huge risk. That person that hires you says, you are so good, Ed, that we are going to bank on you getting up there in front of our thousands of people, motivating them, inspiring them, getting them excited about the future and making me look good. You've got to make somebody look awesome. Do you do that? So, most speakers, when you say, how good are you? They go, I'm great. Well, you think you're great. But your challenge now is to find out, what does that meeting plan, what does that bureau, what does that audience think of you? So, who's your competition? How good are they? Are you looking at your competition? Not to copy your competition, please, but to see how high the bar is. Because when you start to look at the people that are on the center stage of conferences, you will be amazed. You will be floored. You will be overwhelmed by how fantastic they are. Teresa and I and Jim Bob did a showcase a few years back, which I'll probably talk about when I'm up here. I thought I was pretty good till I got to that showcase. I was number 18. 17 people before me rocked. I was sweating. I was nervous. I did okay. But I realized that I wasn't raising the bar high enough. To get on stage today in 2012, you've got to be awesome. You've got to rock. Who's your competition? And then once you find out who your competition is, what makes you shine above them? So let's get into a little bit of the ways that we develop a brand. I just got motivated by this talk yesterday. I am always listening to tapes. I'm always on there. So I'm listening to Speaker. Did you hear Speaker Net News? I bought it for $15, and I listened to Joe Calloway and Larry Wingate yesterday. 4 times I listened to them because they talked about the speaking business today. And here's what I got out of the talk. A lot of it is about branding. I was ahead of my time. Nobody wanted branding in 2000. Today it's a hot topic, right? So here's the deal. Look at yourself right now in either one of 2 categories. I'm going to put you in one of 2 categories. Number one, you are so good. Your ideas are so great that you're on the TEDs. You get 20 minutes on the TEDs to teach us, to inspire us, to innovate us. You're an expert. If you're an expert, you've got to have a book. If you're an expert, you've got to win some kind of an award. You've got to be not the expert in your little area, but an expert that people understand that they know, because people are going to pay money. We're going to fill the seats with your expertise. If you're not an expert, maybe you've got style, and that's kind of where I'm going to go today. I'm going to go more into your style. I'm going to go into something that you do. Something that you do when you're up here is so cool, so awesome, that people want more of it. I don't remember what she said, I just like her. Right? I don't remember her name, but get her back, get him back. So you've got style. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about how do we dig deep to get that style. Because today, if your style is like in the middle, if you're like, oh, Richie's really nice, he was good, he was really good, you're not memorable. So you've got to go deeper. You've got to go and dig deeper into who you are and how you deliver your information so that people remember you and they want you back again. So are you the steak or the sizzle? I'm not quite sure. But you've got to begin to decide. And if you say, you know what, I'm the steak, I have content, then get going on that book. Get some national recognition. Okay? So what I thought I would do is because a lot of people don't really get branding. They think that the branding is your logo, it's your colors, it's your website. So I'm going to give you a little branding story, a little class. So pretend you're back in college, Branding 101. Because I'm an old retailer, because I'm an ex-retailer, I was a retailer in Houston for 20 years, right? I'm gonna talk about something that I think everyone in this room, because I want to get us all on the same page, understands. Is there anyone in this room that has never been inside of a Walmart, a Kmart, or a Target? Okay, look, how many times do you see 100% audience? Okay, we've all been in there, so I'm going to give you a little branding history. I'm going to take you back to the 60s. Back in the early 60s, there was a dime store called SS Kresge's. This dime store, you pull up, kind of like in a strip center, and you'd go in. I was a kid back then, I thought everything was a dime, right? It wasn't, but things were relatively inexpensive. Out of SS Kresge's, this dime store, grew the first big discount store. And that first discount store is called Kmart. Now what differentiated, and the word we're going to study is differentiate, what differentiated Kmart from SS Kresge's and all the other stores back then, they were all department stores, was that it was going to be cheap. Everything in the store was going to be cheap, and you could buy tires for your car, you could buy oil, motor oil for your car, you could buy your baby food in the store. It was going to have everything that you want in one place, but it was going to be cheap. And here's the killer. It was going to have a parking lot around it. This is the first time they invented these box stores where you could just pull up. Back in the 60s, this was unheard of, and go in and shop. Same time, maybe a year later, Sam Walton is studying Kresge's. He opens the store Walmart. Same thing, same concept, discount store. But what differentiated Walmart from Kmart was that Walmart was going to put themselves in small towns, in the hub of small towns. It was going to be very patriotic. They were going to hire the elderly to greet you. There would be greeters, but there was one huge differentiator. Does anybody know what it is? Everything in Walmart back in 1964 was going to be made in America. Made in America. He'd be rolling over in his grave when his sons have done that. Anyway, so the differentiator back then was very patriotic. Made in America, okay? But bigger and even cheaper than Kmart. He was gonna eat that Kmart, right? 2 years later, 1967, 1968, another discount store comes on the scene. But this discount store differentiates them from the other two totally, because they come from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Dayton and Hudson, fashion. Target comes on the scene, they're going to be discount, but their differentiator is going to be cool fashion, okay? So the 70s go on, they're doing okay. Kmart actually is doing really, really well. We're into the 80s. Target is not doing well. Target decides they are going to rebrand themselves. And the reason I tell you this story right now is because maybe some of you are sitting in this audience and you're saying, you know what? I gotta rebrand myself. You can. Target did it. Follow what Target did. Target looked at the audience. They looked at that, who is going to be shopping in the future, and they noticed Generation X and Generation Y, and they made a decision to change. Their mood, their look, their style was going towards younger and cooler. They didn't care if you were a baby boomer. You could shop there. The only differentiator was that you had to be cool. How many people in here love Target? Look at all the cool people. Look around. These are all the cool people in this room, right? So Target's differentiator was that you had to be cool, the clothes were going to be cool, and to really kind of nail it, They got designers to come in, and the first one was Isaac Mizrahi. Does anybody remember that? And now today there are so many designers that want to be in Target. So did it work? Did it work? Sure. They say that they are, for people who are cool, the #1 retailer. So the first story, the first tip, the first idea that I want you to understand is that you have to differentiate yourself. Differentiation is the beginning of branding. We're all in the room. Look around. This is your competition in Houston. We're all here. We love each other. We share, but we're competitors. So what makes you different from the people at your table? What is it about you that is your differentiator? And is that enough? Is that enough? No. It gets tougher. Branding 102, Coke. Let's go back with Coke to 1976, 1977, even 1980. Coke is the #1 brand in the world. Does anybody remember that? I want to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony with Coke. Everybody's singing about Coke. Okay, at the time, the CEO of Coke, Roberto, I can't remember his last name, it's like Gutierrez, something like that. He's obsessed with Pepsi. And he decides to have the Pepsi challenge. Does anybody remember this? People are in malls and shopping centers. They're coming out of grocery stores. And as they walk out of the grocery store, there's a man that says, "Excuse me, ma'am, can I blindfold you?" And of course she said yes, back in the 70s. I would do whatever. And I'm going to blindfold you, and I'm going to have you drink these 2 beverages in a cup. Could you imagine doing that today? But we were so innocent, so naive back then. People would come out of the grocery stores, we would blindfold them, they would drink the Pepsi, they would drink the Coke, their shopping cart is full of Coke, but they picked Pepsi. Time and time again, Pepsi won, Pepsi won. Mr. Gutierrez is going crazy. So he decides to change Coke. He's going to put more sugar in it. They say that this formula was like guarded by the US Navy, like it was so important that nobody would get the new Coke formula. 1984, he comes out with new Coke. Did you like it?
No.
Not only did you not like it, you were mad. Where's my Coke? People were going to the store, they had black market old Coke on sale, $30 a case for Coke, and we were hoarding our Coke because we hated that new Coke. Once they fired him, I learned a lesson. If your brand is working, don't change it. If things are going great right now, man, you figure out what's working and you do more of it. #1 rule in branding is consistency. We want you to be, if you're awesome, you be awesome every time you get up there. We don't care if you have a headache. We don't care if someone in your family is ill. When you're on that stage, you're consistently great. #2, Starbucks comes along. Starbucks says, okay, we'll be consistent. Our coffee will be consistently expensive. But we're gonna give you an experience. That experience is not only in when you walk in our store, the smell. We're gonna give you a cup that is so awesome that you're going to come in the morning and you're going to fill it up and pay your $4.25, and you're going to carry our cup around with you all day. You're going to fill it up at work, and you're going to show everybody that cup because our experience is phenomenal. What's your experience? What's it like to be with you? What's your personality like? Are you cheerful? When you come into a room, are you on time? What is the experience like working with you? It's part of your brand. We want you to be consistent. And we want you to give us a good experience. And then Apple comes along. Mike has got his new iPad 3. Only now we're just calling it the iPad, right? The lines yesterday were around the bend. What's the deal with a stock that's over 580? What happened with Apple? We're crazy about Apple, right? Because Apple did something in branding that I think each speaker in this room has to hear. It said, not only are we going to be consistently changing, right, their consistency, and people will pay for that, right? These early adopters, they will buy that product, they don't care how many mistakes are in it because they're loyal. We're going to give you a sexy experience. We're thin, we're sleek, we're white. Remember that we all wanted those white earbuds because we wanted people to know how cool we were with that sexy technology. But we're going to do something else. We're going to be smart. We're going to teach you the future. We're going to show you things. We're going to sell you things you don't even want. I remember when the first iPod came out and I watched Steve. I watched him over and over and he said, 2,000 tunes in your pocket. I thought, who cares? Who wants 2,000 tunes in their pocket? Okay, I was wrong on that one. So, you've got to be smart. You've got to be advanced. You've got to teach us. You've got to show us. You've got to lead the way to the future as speakers. So branding is a big deal today. Branding is about getting to your heart and soul and differentiating you from others. Branding is about being consistent, being consistently good, showing up the same all the time. It's about that fabulous experience that we have when we work with you. And it's about teaching your audiences and your listeners about the future, guiding them, showing them. So the quicker you establish your brand, the quicker the buyer is going to connect with you and your programs. So many times we're worried about the wrong things. People want to connect with you. We buy products and services, but we attract and we attach ourselves to people. So as I close it down, I'm going to ask you, what is it about you? What is your one thing? Maybe you don't know today. Maybe it's something that you're embarrassed about. Maybe it's something your mom and dad kind of scolded you about when you were a kid. That could be your winning ticket. We've got to go deeper. We've got to give the audience more. Because if they like you, you want them to love you, give them more of you. Thank you guys up here.
You're like a rock star, I told you. We need to take a little break here. 10 minutes? 10 minutes, and we'll be back with our wonderful star speakers in a panel. And don't forget your questions. Think of questions you want to ask each of these speakers, okay? 10 minutes, see you back here. You playing a game over there,
No, we're not.
Sonia?
No, we're not. I was looking at his car and I'm like, make it rain.
Make it rain. Oh, that's Ed Robinson. He makes everything
You
rain.
make it rain.
I mean, yeah. Cool. Anyway. We are here with our panel of experts this morning, and I want to encourage you, please, to, this is an interactive, informal, sort of like open space, open ideas meeting. So if you have any questions at any time, please just raise your hand for our speakers, and we'll accommodate you. So here we go. We've got a panel of experts. You heard from all of them, Sue Pistone, Jimmy Cabrera, and Karen McCullough. And the first question I'm going to ask to Sue, and it is, how and why did you get started in the speaking business? And I'm going to give you about 2 to 3 minutes on each.
Okay. On this, are we going to do the microphone or not? No? Can y'all hear me fine? Okay. In 1977, I was a top producing realtor. In fact, I was #1 in Harris County for our franchise. And I had... and I had I had very low self-esteem and self-confidence. I just knew I was really lucky and could match people up with houses. So my friends took me to a motivational rally, and it was the first one I'd ever been to and one I did not want to go to, and it was Zig Ziglar, Ed Foreman, and Cabot Robert. Wow. And they were on stage, and I was in that audience feeling so bad about myself. And they came out and made me feel so great about myself. And that day, I looked at them. I had no clue there was such a thing as a speaker. And I saw them, and I went, oh my gosh, that's what I want to do when I grow up. That's it. And I was 29 years old, and I made a decision by the time I was 35 that I would become a speaker, because that day, Zig Ziglar came out and said, in life, you got to have a goal. Or you don't, you can just be a bad example for other people. And so I said, okay, well, that's my goal, then I'm going to be a speaker. And then Ed Foreman said you have to have a date by when you're going to do it. And I said, okay, by the time I'm 35, I'm going to get paid speaking, which I did. And then Cabot Robert came out and just about blew the whole thing for me. He had this talk about you can't heat an oven with snowballs, which means you've got to know something in order for people to listen. And I went, oh my gosh, I only have a high school education. I'm only lucky in sales. And so I really don't know anything to do. So I made a commitment that day to read a book. And I read a book a week from the time I was 29 years old until I was 37 years old. And at that time, I changed it to study 3 hours a day. And I did 3 hours a day, 6 days a week until I was 50 years old. And so that's how I learned something to speak about. Anyway, and I booked my first speech when I was 35, and then I started my speaking company June 1st, 1985, because in April, my grandmother died, and I really was upset about this and didn't understand why I had to lose her. I prayed about it every night. May 1st, I got the message that if you want to do something with your life, You need to do it now. Don't wait. And I'd been selling real estate 8 years when I really wanted to be a speaker. So that was May 1st. And May 15th, I merged my real estate company with someone else. June 1st, I became a speaker and a coach by going to Kinko, getting a card printed that said I was one. Yep, I did. And then I was teaching at the University of Houston, and I was telling them how to accomplish goals, and I always used me as an example. So, for example, positive goal statement, I am a professional speaker. And I would share that with my students. And so then the first day I did that, someone hired me to help with their goals. And the second day, a student said, I'm drowning in paperwork. Do you know anybody that does organization? And I'm thinking, well, I was like the most disorganized person ever. And I thought, okay, I've been taking care of 4 kids forever, organizing them. I did get organized when I was selling real estate and doubled my income. So maybe I can do this. And I said, yes, I can. I said, yes, I can. And she said, how much do you charge? And I thought, okay, I'm paying my therapist $75 an hour, so I don't have a degree like they do, $50 an hour. And they said, fine, when can you start? And I'm thinking, oh my God, in 2 weeks, because I'm booked. And I was booked with myself to learn everything I could about organization and time management. Anyway, so that's how I knew I wanted to be in the speaking business, is by watching those guys up on stage.
All right, excellent. And Jimmy Cabrera, how did you, let me see, the question. Here's how, when, why did you get started in the speaking business?
Goes back, I was a top producer for a real estate company in Southern California, San Diego, and they asked me to tell my story in different branches. Never got in front of anybody, and I prepared for an hour program. It was a stack of how to prospect, about that high, and I gave my presentation in 10 minutes. That's talking fast, folks. They didn't understand the word I said. I had cotton mouth so bad. Back then I had a real thin mustache, real thin. My whole mouth was covered white. I'm dark complected, okay? So you can see it. So they sent me to the bathroom to clean up a little bit. I came out and said, I'll never do this again. But they asked me again. And then I went to what had brought in the speaker, Tom Hopkins, to one of our sales rallies. And when he walked on stage, I can't explain this, I saw myself walking on stage. Didn't think of anything about it till later. And that's how I started developing, and I got hooked in front of people. And I became a manager for them. Then I left management for Coldwell Banker, and I promoted Tom Hopkins for 4 years. I was a sales promoter. We did real estate seminars, and I was the first person in 1978 to promote him in general sales. And we made the transition, and I did that for a couple of years. I opened the Tom Hopkins School, the how-tos and the selling, and then I came to Houston. This was in Oregon and Seattle. I came back to Texas, and as I started developing this, we had a disagreement, Tom Hopkins Company and I figured it's time I go on my own. So I took off 2 months in October of 81, excuse me. And I sat in the patio with a friend of mine, and everything I've learned from my mentors, Zig Ziglar's, Tom Hopkins, my greatest mentor in general sales was J. Douglas Edwards. If you ever find anything on him, buy it. And I learned the basic technique of selling, so I said, put my stuff together. And I promoted my first seminar. Instead of promoting Tom Hopkins who, I promoted Jimmy Cabrera who. And I just did what I did for him. I went knocking on doors, making phone calls, getting in front of, go to Sue's office. She had salespeople, make a 20-minute presentation, sell them tickets, come and hear me speak. In my first little seminar I had in Houston, 250 people paid $35 to come and see me. And I got excited. And that's pretty well how I started, simply.
Very cool. And Karen, how, when, why did you get started in the speaking business?
Okay, so I was a retailer here in Houston during the 80s and the 90s. I sold preppy clothes, and I blame my failures on Madonna, because when she sang like a virgin, nobody wanted to be preppy anymore. And so I started losing my the customers, and then casual dress came in, and pretty soon nobody was dressing up for work, and I knew that I had to do something else. And a former NSA member, Nancy Hopper, I don't know if anybody remembers Nancy, she was selling multi-level something. And so I said, oh, I'll do that. So I thought I could make my fortune selling vitamins. And so I realized that they needed a spokesperson to teach the classes on Saturday. And I said, let me do it. And I got into it. I was teaching people about these vitamins, and I realized that I really enjoyed getting up in front of an audience. She and I went to an NSA meeting, and I saw Teresa Behena. This is when Teresa was a mentee up on stage playing the piano in a Liberace top. And I went, oh, I can do that, right? So immediately I started going to NSA, and this is just how big my ego is. There should be somebody standing behind me right now going, mistake, mistake, because I'm going to hear them. So I went to NSA. I had a lot of confidence, I guess. I just thought it would be easy to be a speaker. So I rented the junior league. I had a lot of female clients, because I'd had a store for almost 20 years, so I had a mailing list of 4,000. So I rented the junior league. I invited Teresa and Tom Britton, who was I got in the mentee program. I didn't ever watch anybody famous. I just decided I think Teresa was my mentor. She didn't know it, but I only saw her do a speech. I just said, okay, I'm going to do a show. So I rented the junior league. Were you at the first one? I had 320 people come. Of course, I only charged $28 a ticket. There you go. I lost money on the ticket. I had a full house, and I did my first one-woman kind of show called The 7 Women. And yeah, it was good.
It was great.
It was really good. But I videoed it because I thought I was awesome. My first speech, I videoed. I had a videographer there because I was going to use it. It never worked. None of that ever worked. But that was how I started. And I just started speaking, and I had no income. So I would get a big calendar out, and I needed to make $300 a day. I needed to make $1,500 a week to just live. So I would put, every time I had a gig, I would write real big. I mean, I was so focused on living that I think it really pushed me out there. And I did a lot of speeches in the very beginning. I mean, I think I spoke like 5 times, 6 times a month, just getting out there. I didn't know anything. And sometimes ignorance is bliss. Sometimes you come to NSA and you learn all the rules, and it holds you back. But I didn't know the rules. So I filled the junior league. I did a speech called The 7 Women. It never really got me anywhere. But that was my beginning.
That was an awesome beginning, because it was a show. I'll never forget her. She was walking up the catwalk, she's this little itty bitty thing, and then she's like totally compelling. She's got a stage presence that's, as you've seen this morning, awesome. And I couldn't tell you one word she said, what she spoke about, but it was fun. So, which leads me to my second question. Were you clear about what you wanted to speak on when you first started out? And here's this where all your new speakers or your protrackers in the room, listen up. So,
yes, I was very clear. I wanted to be the Miss Zig Ziglar. I wanted to be a motivational speaker. So what I did was, the first thing that I did is that first paid speech I did was everything that Zig Ziglar, Cabot Roberts, and Ed Foreman said. I just did it myself. And when I did it, I felt, ooh, this doesn't feel good. And I realized then you weren't supposed to do that. You're not supposed to take other people's information. You're supposed to come up with your own. Unfortunately, if people wanted a motivational speaker, they hired Zig Ziglar. They didn't hire me. And so I was known for marketing because of my real estate, and so people would hire me for marketing. And then I would go back to find out how their sales had increased, and I found out that they hadn't implemented anything because they didn't have time. So then I said, okay, well, you need to get organized and do time management. And trust me, never in my life did I ever dream that I might teach organization or time management, because you never met anyone worse than me. And that is why I am so incredibly good at it, because I know where you hide your stuff. I know when you're not telling the truth. I know where everything is. And so what I want to tell you is, sometimes what you want to do won't exactly be what you do, because really what I wanted, the outcome I wanted, was I wanted to make people feel good about themselves the way I did that day when Zig Ziglar, Ed Foreman, and Cabot Roberts spoke. What I didn't realize until I started getting letters and referrals and recommendations from people is that when they became organized and good time managers and had time to live their life on purpose the way they wanted to, they felt good about themselves. And so I went, oh gosh, I guess God had a different plan for me. Instead of being the rah-rah motivational speaker, I'm the one that teaches these skills, but still they're getting on the inside what my whole goal was. So yes, I was clear. And I would just want to say one other thing. The other thing is, I kind of did what Jimmy did. I said, what is it that I can speak about? And I wrote down all the topics I could speak on, which were sales, negotiating, prospecting, networking, et cetera, and then, of course, had to add time management, organization. And then you also look at, okay, what will people buy? Because if you want to make a living, you have to also know what they'll buy, and you have to have honesty and integrity in that you've got to really know these subjects and believe in them and want to teach them. So, and just one quick thing. So, for example, if somebody would say, would you get up and do a presentation on Excel, or will you teach us how? We'll pay you what you make an hour to do that. I would say no, because I would not be the best, and I wouldn't be having fun, and I wouldn't be making them feel good about themselves. So, just to get real clear on what you want to speak about and then what people buy. Okay?
Jimmy, were you clear about what you wanted to speak on when you started out?
I thought I was. Well, I came out of a sales background, and so in promoting seminars, I put myself together. So I came up with a program with the how-tos and the psychology of selling, and I love teaching basic selling skills, and so that's what I thought I really loved to do. And I got in front of people. I sold my workshops in Houston. They asked me to speak here and there. It was all sales. I loved it. But then I was not content. Something inside was eating inside of me. And by the grace of God, I was invited to speak at a school. And I never thought young people would relate to me. And I told my little story. And the teacher said, Jimmy, there's 23 people in this room. When the bell rings, don't get frustrated. They're going to leave. So make sure you're done. Well, we speakers don't think, come on, man. They're not going to leave on me, right? Well, I wasn't done. The bell rang, and in 3 seconds, the room was empty. Okay? And I felt totally dejected. And she called me the next day, and they said, they raved about you. Can you come back? I said, they didn't even smile. What are you talking about? Rave about me. They said, you really talked about what it takes to be successful as a human being. And that came out, and I said, that's what I was looking for, my why. Why am I doing this? So I shifted from sales training into doing more keynote, inspirational, empowerment, peak performance, how to get people off their Goya to do something in their life. That's how I really started, and that my purpose evolved, my passion evolved. And so my marketing shifted it when I did a lot of sales, corporate, I did some associations, and I was doing about 90% association in business. Now I'm doing about 80% educational and about 20% business. I still speak at schools. By the way, I'm a young chicken. I'm only 67. And someday, thank you. You need to see me in front of fourth graders. You'd think I was 20 years old. I've been blessed with that area, with high energy. I've been able to speak at any grade level, first graders all the way to college graduates or whatever it takes. But I've learned through the process. Now, I think what you're trying to say when you determine, why you define your topic, what I want to speak about, get some feedback. I got feedback from audiences, from young people, letters, or teachers, also business. You got to solicit that feedback, and they'll help you focus into. If they talk about, I've known Sue for so many years. When I think of Sue, I don't have to guess anymore. She's an expert in time management. She's an expert in marketing. She does a lot of inspiration, but to me, I know that's how I see her. So, people in education, they see me a certain way, or they see, Karen a certain way. So that's what you have to define yourself as: focus, feedback, and again, feedback.
Okay, thanks, Jimmy. Karen, were you really clear on what you wanted to speak about when you started out?
Not at all. In fact, I think this is like the biggest mistake that speakers make right off the bat. So I knew I wanted to speak, and so I thought I had to speak on what I thought I did. So I started speaking on image, okay? I was called into a lot of companies to talk on casual dress. And the first thing that I noticed was that I had to say no to everybody. Like, no, you can't wear those shoes. No, you can't wear that. I would leave so depressed, and I realized I don't want to do this. I don't want to be the fashion police. I got paid, I mean, we're not allowed to talk about money, but I got paid this much. I got paid enough to live because everybody needed it, but it wasn't what I wanted to speak on. So I'm a business person more than I am inspirational. I don't mean to say that. Hope you don't think any less of me, but I'm always thinking about the business. So I got online and looked at what the big topics were. So like, what was my competition? What was Connie Podesta speaking on? And I started looking at other female speakers who were making the big bucks. So the first topic I took was change. That was way too broad. And I was asked to do change management, and I remember Baker Hughes hired me, and you want to talk about torture? I'm a keynoter. I am not I'm an hour, 90 minutes is all you're going to get out of me. After 90 minutes, you got to bring in the oxygen tank, you got to bring in the EMS. I'm having a heart attack because I'm talking like I'm keynoting the whole day. And I remember I was in the middle of this change management for Baker Hughes, and I hated it. I hated the full day. I hated training. And that's when I began to realize I've got to find something I enjoy doing. So I made a list of what I need in life, and I need creativity. If I don't have fun and creativity. So I decided that I would be creative in my keynotes, and that changed everything because I started really learning how to use my Mac and my PowerPoint and bringing music in, and I'm a little edgy at times, and so I began to incorporate all of my pop culture. So I began to bring me into the talk, and when I started to put me in the talk, everything changed. So my change talk was called Change is Good, You Go First. It's funny, and it's a keynote. It's not a full day. It's an hour, 90 minutes max, okay? Then I got really smart, and I landed the generations. And, well, branding. I always spoke on branding, but before I go on, nobody wanted branding till this year. So I had a topic nobody wanted. And that was kind of interesting to try to sell something nobody wanted. I'm good at branding, but nobody got it until now. It's very hot. So you might have a topic that's way ahead of your time. I actually think I am ahead of my time. I think I've always done things before the curve, which can be a challenge, you know? I drive myself crazy because now I'm into like, okay, what about Google Plus, you know? But anyway, so nobody wanted branding, so I kind of put it aside. So if you got a talk that nobody's buying and you're in this for the business, because I'm business, so I saw the generations, right? And my daughter Meredith was at a conference. She's a consultant in D.C., and she heard a woman speak on the generations, and she sent me all her notes. She said, you could do this better. Well, the notes were awesome, and I started reading, and I was just telling Ski, when you read 7 books, you become an expert. I read every book there was on the generations, but I could just come in and do the generations, but if you've seen me do the generations, you won't forget it, because it's funny. And I get everybody laughing, like snorting and hitting each other. And then in the end, I added music. So for me, this is a joyous process. This is the best life you're ever going to have if you figure out who you are, what you love, and incorporate that into your topic. Because that's what gets me away. I wake up at 5:30 some days, 6, sometimes 4:30, wanting to work. Who does that? And it's because it's exciting. Yes, you do. You do, right? And so if you're doing that, you are on the right track. But to me, the topic is everything. And I'm going to say, well, I know I'm taking too much time, but in the beginning, they don't want you to be. In the beginning, when you're speaking locally, you need a title that they're going to buy. They don't care about you. They're buying your title. If you've got a pulse, you're free, you're $200, they're going to bring you in. So many people get carried away with their titles that nobody gets. Make it really clear and make it really simple so they can buy you.
And that is really true. I speak on high performance, and I put Lady Gaga. I make her as a reference now because she's so creative and innovative. Ever since I started using Lady Gaga and the title, I'm booked. Yeah. It's amazing.
Title sell.
And you pro-trackers starting out, and Karen was gracious enough to say she'd seen me what is it, 2009?
I was the class of 2000.
1999 or something.
You were 99, I was 2000.
Okay, so I was we called it the mentee program then instead of the pro track, and so I didn't know what I was talking about. Haven't got a clue what she saw, and I bet she can't tell you what I spoke on because,
The power of words.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, the power of words. Yes, that was it.
The power of words.
The power of words. And I didn't really know what I was talking about. I had this one sheet, and I was in a sequin dress with an Elton John piano in the background, and it said teamwork. Nothing says teamwork like a woman in a sequin dress stood up there. I mean, duh. So, yeah, be really clear to get clear. I think that's a great suggestion to you for you people that don't know what you're talking about yet, is to make that list and of what you know and go from there. So next question. Any questions for our panel at this point? Yes, Sonia.
Karen, you showed some of the new generation speakers. And I was thinking about, booking a room, and you talked about getting so many people there. That doesn't happen much anymore. So what does it look like these days to get in front of an audience?
My audiences are young, except last week. What are you saying? What does the audience look like?
New generation of speakers, are they booking a room and people coming to hear them? Are they going to the people to speak? What does that look like today?
I'm just booked I go to conferences, so I'm a conference speaker,
Right.
pretty much, and they're on the stage, these people. I mean, they're just
At the
different.
conferences.
Yes, I don't think that I don't think they're booking rooms.
No.
They're getting hired to speak.
They're getting
So
hired
they're
by,
going to the masses, really?
well, they're being hired by the associations, corporations, meeting planners, by bureaus, or what have you, but that's
Yeah.
basically what you're saying, right?
What you're describing is called a public workshop,
A
Yeah.
Public seminar.
or a public seminar.
Yeah.
Sue does that, actually, Sue can
Some,
address
yes,
that.
for
on-
training.
for training.
Yeah, not for keynote speaking, for training. And so what you saw up there is mainly keynote speaking, and they're brought in by the people.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, is there still a market for what you're doing, the public workshops, to get people to come to you?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
There is, but it's small, and it takes a lot of marketing
Yeah.
to get people there, you know.
I think the internet has taken over a lot of that.
Mhm.
I get constant, oh man,
Mhm.
attend my webinar.
Webinar, virtual.
And that, I bet you I could go to one a day if I wanted to, and learn something about something. And sometimes I do attend,
And many of those are free,
yes.
because they then hope to enlist you and let them be their coach, you know. But I attended one yesterday. I've attended Karen's and Crystal's,
Crystal's?
which are fabulous. And I attended another one yesterday on the new Facebook changes that goes into effect. Mark Clark was great.
And YouTube has
And they're all
taken over
free.
a lot of that too, where you can get that experience or get that knowledge pretty quick.
What we're finding when you study, I think everyone should really kind of study the generations, because it's really the secret to a lot of it. Baby boomers still like to meet. They like to get together. They like to see each other. Gen X, no way. They are busy. They want to, and they don't want to even listen to your webinar. They're going to listen to it at midnight. And and Gen Y, I don't even think that I'm not quite sure what they're doing. But what I'm getting at is that you have to know your audience, because
Yeah.
baby boomers still want to get together. They like coming in.
Well, that's a good point. That helps segment.
Who
Yeah.
likes coming?
Baby boomers.
Yeah.
They like getting together.
They're live. In other words, they're live people.
Right.
Yes.
Meeting live.
Right.
Okay.
Chris?
I have
Lady?
feedback just in ProTrack Rob suggested, and I would say it's been, as a newbie, it's been helpful to me. I'm an educator and a researcher on digital footprints and cyberbullying, and so one of the things that Rob and then also Chris, who came to our very first ProTrack thing, talked about, that sometimes that you've got to give in order to get, and I've been doing all kinds of little organizations, and these little organizations, I'm going and just really talking about how it helps people to understand, your digital footprints and all of that. But that has really emerged into speaking at conferences and, getting the ones that are not paid ones, but then that gets somebody else who has seen you who then gets to. So it's kind of a give.
Also, you get recordings,
Yeah.
your video, audio.
I don't know, I mean,
Okay, excuse me, in the time, we've got a little time, it's not a worry, not a problem. I encourage this sort of a discussion, because it's supposed to be, but we've got a lot of questions here. And Ed Robinson, no more. Okay, fine, next question, sorry. What helped you the most starting out? Sue?
What helped me the most?
Yeah.
I actually had 4 people that helped me the most, and I'll do those real quickly. When I just made the decision to open the business June 1st, I immediately joined Toastmasters. And I went 3 weeks in a row, and each week that I went, I won. Whether it was the evaluation, the speech, or there was something else, of the ad-lib thing, yeah. And so there was a man there who was a member of NSA Houston, which wasn't that name at that time, but NSA Houston. He said, "You really need to be at this Houston chapter." And I don't remember who his name was. I don't remember who he was, but I came, and the first meeting I came to, Jimmy Cabrera was president, and Jimmy had me speak at my first meeting. And I was so nervous, I said, "Oh my gosh, all I've ever spoken to is realtors." I said, "Can they pretend they're realtors?" And the audience pretended they were real estate agents for me. And I know Jimmy was over there going, "Oh my God, what have I done?" Anyway, and we had some really tough evaluators in there. Remember that? I mean, they would slice people down, which you never want to do. I mean, it doesn't help. And 2 things happened. One is the evaluator, the only thing they said negative to me was that I wore too much jewelry and it was clanging. And Jimmy said, "Oh my gosh, if she's that good now, what's she going to be like when she becomes professional?" And so I owe a lot to him, because he really got me motivated. I was still teaching real estate classes, and I was still using a professional speaker as my goal. And this lady said, "Gosh, if you really are going to do that, you should meet this guy who's a member of National Speakers Association. His name is Pete Johnson, and he did strategic marketing." And so she called Pete up and said, "Hey, I've got this teacher and she wants to be a speaker." And he said, "Well, I'll be in New Orleans and I have about 2 hours between planes if she wants to fly over and meet me." And I did. And he said, "Do this, this, and this." And I did. And he was right on. And then the next month, and he said, "If you really want to be a speaker, join the National Speakers Association." Now, June 1st, I just started this, and the convention was in July, and I joined, and I went. And I met my next mentor, who was speaking in Houston. I accidentally went to his room. I thought it was going to be a different speaker. It was so funny. I thought he was going to be Patrick O'Dooley, good-looking. Patrick O'Dooley invited me to come hear him, and I walk in, there's this little short, round man, and he goes, "Joe Charbonneau." "I'm the round mound of sound." That's what he called himself. Anyway, and so my assistant and I, this was in '86, and my assistant and I were there, and he said, "If you really want to know how to run a business and be a speaker, fly to Dallas and come see me." And I did. And I don't think he believed I would come. And he became my mentor until he passed away, and he was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. He taught me 2 things that are really important. Number 1 is that if you want to be a master, learn what the masters do, and you'll be a master too. And so just like Karen said, she read every book on generations. You read everything you can, you study everything you can, you develop your own information. And then the second thing he taught me is that you are the only person that will never leave you. And so, don't be blaming anybody else for anything, and don't be depending on anybody else for anything. You're the only person that will ever leave you. But he was fabulous, and those are the people that really helped me.
Excellent. So you're saying mentors, basically,
Oh.
and the NSA.
Yeah, mentors. Uh-huh.
You're all in the right place.
And I've been in this 27 years. And so Jimmy's been there for me for 20, and he's been there through, I've had a lot of tragedies, as y'all know, and he's been there for me every time. And so is Teresa, and so is Karen, so is a lot of people. And Rob.
Jimmy, what helped you most starting out?
Well, probably ditto what Sue said in the area of mentors. At the same time, say this with love. Practice what you preach. There's too many speakers out there that get up there and get the big fees, and they don't practice what they preach. If you say you're one thing, then be that person. One thing I learned from Jim Rohn, he just left us here a couple of years ago, am I correct?
Yes.
He's one person, can sit on a stool, not move, and you will not move for 4 hours. That was his style. He gave me a phrase in 1978 that's haunting me, and I want it to haunt you. And he said, be who you say you are, or quit saying who you are.
Very good. Be authentic.
And that to me just is hung in my soul forever. Another thing that really helped me was if I'm going to do sales training, then I need to practice that. So I went out there and sold tickets to come hear me speak, the public seminars. So I went out there and people saw me, and managers would see, and please understand I took advantage of my ethnicity, because back in the early 80s, most of the audiences I spoke to were mostly Anglo-white. And so managers would say, if this guy can do it, my people should do it, okay? Play the race game if you want to. And so the thing is I practiced what I went out there and showed them technique, and then I closed the sale. They were sent in front of me, a manager says, I'm not sending anybody to your seminar. I will leave in an hour, and 15 people signed up. And he paid for it. And he said, how'd you do that? He said, well, I walked through the steps. He said, that's what I want my people to learn, how to close the sale. So basically, and the mentors, and be who you say you are, or quit saying you are, and practice what you preach.
Excellent. Karen, what helps you most standing out? Apart from being inspired by my I don't know what speech.
Well, this kind of goes along with the biggest mistake I made too, but I'll just go into it. I knew what I wanted to be. I knew right from the day one that I wanted to be a keynote speaker. And I knew what kind of audiences I wanted. I never pictured myself, I pictured myself with big audiences. And so I picked one person to listen to. And this person did not give me a lot of time. I had to give him a call every once in a while. In the beginning, he gave me time, and then he got really busy. I call him every once in a while. Like a couple days ago, I did call him, and I just said, so what do you do when you speak in Iowa? It's so hard to get through. He goes, I never go to Iowa. Well, then now I never go to Iowa. I never go to Iowa. It's out. Because you can't get around in Iowa, right? But, yeah. So anyway, so I picked one person, and it really helped me. Because you're going to hear everybody's got a different way of doing it, and I don't listen to anybody at all. Now, I do have people that I follow, and they're the top. So I have my list of greats. My number one role model is Guy Kawasaki, and I just shared the stage with him. I was like so excited that I was with Guy. But I have like 10 people who I believe in, and I follow them. But I have one speaker who I'm a mini him, and that's how I did it. And it's whatever he did. It's Garrison Wynn, if anybody wants to know who it is. He's really busy, and he didn't give me a lot of time. But in the beginning, he had the time, and he did help me.
Yeah, he's good. We tried to get him here today, but he's
too busy.
in New Orleans.
But I know, I wanted to be just like him. So I travel just like him. I asked him what kind of suitcase he has, because travel's hard. I mean, you've got to know how to travel. And I do just what he does. So now I don't go to Iowa.
Okay, note that.
I'm kidding.
First time
You got to rent a car if you go to Iowa.
Speaking business can be overwhelming at first, so do you remember an aha moment that changed your perspective? Possibly, and I think you may have covered some of this, but maybe at an NSA convention or something?
Yeah, it was at my first NSA convention in 1985 in Washington, D.C., and what happened is I was in the room, and there were 1,000 people there. And I just remember sitting there feeling so overwhelmed, so out of place, and making a decision that I did not want to be just one of the 1,000. That I wanted to be more involved, and I wanted to have really good mentors. So at that convention, I selected the people that I wanted to get to know. And then I started my marketing plan, because I am very good on marketing. I started my marketing plan, and by the time I went to the next convention, they were leaders of the organization. When I walked in, they go, "Oh, Sue, it's so good to see you." And that's because I sent my picture card to them after I left, and I sent it to them before I went, and I sent it to them at holidays and everything, so they saw my face all the time. And they helped me, because I could pick up the phone or I could ask them. For example, when I started speaking, I have 4 children, and they were all still in school. So I needed to stay at home as much as possible. And I had heard that you can't be a prophet in your own home, in your own hometown, but the truth of that is you can't be if you're bad.
Right.
But if you're a good speaker, you can be. And so I made my money working in Houston and being here because I have my 4 children. And I was at an NSA convention, and one of the speakers said, "Oh, you don't travel?
Yeah.
Well, you'll make it one day." And I felt so bad about myself, and I was probably making twice as much money as she was, but I felt bad because I wasn't traveling. So I went to my mentor and I said, and they went, "Don't listen. First of all, there's a lot of BS going on, so don't listen, stay true to yourself." So that's what was my aha moment, is to have those, making the decision not to be just one of the crowd, and then to have those mentors and then use them when you get into those situations.
Thank you. Jimmy, any aha moments that changed your perspective?
I think there many. How do you sport? What do you pick? I think 2, I'm gonna give you a negative and a positive. The positive one was before I even thought about becoming a speaker. I was in real estate, a manager. I went to a seminar held, sponsored by Tom Hopkins Company in Scottsdale, Arizona, and the speaker was Danny Cox. And he did a thing on management. And while I was there, I met John Hammond. John Hammond was promoting Tom Hopkins. And we interacted. He said, I told him my goal, I want to be a speaker someday. Good. I want to take you to a conference. Okay. He said, I'll pay for it. Well, then I'll go. He took me to the conference, and it was an NSA convention right there in Phoenix. And I just want to give you the speakers that I remember. Charlie Jarvis. He's deceased now, but he's probably the top humorist in the world. Charlie Tremendous Jones. Nito Cobain. Alan Sindberg. Earl Nightingale. Cavett Roberts. Dick Saman. Norman Vincent Peale. And I was in awe. And the story I gave you today is 50% of the story I heard that day that changed my life. And the guy got up and said, faith. Of course, I turned it to why. And so that, when I left there, I was, you find your why, buddy. Find your why. That was probably before I started going to conventions. And ever since then, in that 30 years as a member, I just got my 30-year pin, yada, yada. I probably attended 26 conventions in my career. And every time I go, I can go all day on the things I've learned. On the negative part that motivated me was back in early 80s, I'm talking about early 80s, I think 83, NSA, you could send a video to them and they would select 4 speakers and they would showcase it in front of everybody. Well, I sent my little video. Big mistake. And I never was selected, never got a call. Well, I got there and they had some showcases and the speakers were good. You had like 7 minutes or 5 minutes, I forget what it was. And I was walking to the hall and 2 of the judges, they received the videos, I knew who I sent it to, were talking about the videos. And they didn't know this, but they were talking about mine. And it was not sweet. Like he has no talent, he'll never make it, I feel sorry for him, maybe he should go and, do not take this wrong, I mean no disrespect, he should go back just being a waiter, which was a racist comment. And so I left there totally dejected and peed. And I said, watch me. And that motivated me because of my temperament, my personality. I'm a high D, high driver. We get motivated easily when you tell us we can't do it. Okay. And so that to me, I got the both areas here, one negative and positive, of things that really impacted me at NSA convention.
Wow, very cool. That's a
Flip side to a bad video, huh? That's pretty good. Okay, Karen, aha moment?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly. It was Thanksgiving 2008. I was at my daughter lives in D.C. and I was at my sister's house and I got a phone call. It was Thanksgiving holiday from Sun Microsystems that they were canceling. I had a huge December with Sun. And they canceled. And she said, the world is falling apart on the phone. And she said, we're canceling everything. And, and I went, the world is falling apart. And I turned on the TV, and the world was falling apart. November 2008, everything was canceled in 2009. It was a very hard time. And I made a decision that I needed to be different, and I needed to be better. And I spent those times that I wasn't working studying social media and learning something new. And I look back on it as the best time of my life because I made changes I'm the busiest I've ever been, but it was because I didn't get scared. I decided to go into action. And a lot of people are still talking about that we haven't come out of the recovery. I was just listening to it. And yes, business is very different right now. But for some of us, it's good. And we'll probably talk about what's working in a minute. But for me, it was that day. I'll never forget it. And I remember I had to tell myself not to be sad in front of my daughter because I had just gone to D.C. and I wanted to cry because there was no money coming in. And as a speaker, you'll have those moments. And when you have those moments when maybe no money is coming in or things are tough, because it's not always great, those are the times when I think we should really just, kind of nose down, tail up, and grow and learn.
Excellent.
Fear is a great motivator, right? Yeah, fear of. I remember that, and actually Sue was my previous business manager. I don't know whether you know, she has Speaker Pro Bureau. And in 2008, I got to keynote as the opening session speaker in front of my largest audience so far, 2,200 people in San Francisco. And it was videoed, and it was awesome video, and I was so excited about it. I came back to Sue, who was managing, I said, it was awesome and it was great. Whoa, we were so excited, weren't we? And we thought, this is great. The only thing wrong with that, and this is what follows with Karen, what Karen was saying, it was there was no content in my speech. And of course, 2008, the markets crashed. 2009 was even worse, and people were wanting business speakers or futurists or economists. And I had not one zippity-lick thing in my whole entire 45-minute keynote that was of any value, of any content. So I had to change too and start studying that, putting content into my speeches. And now I'm booked, but back then. So fear is a great motivator. Excellent. Is there anything you wish you'd done differently,
Yes.
Sue? And can we
Yes.
try and keep this to 2 minutes?
Yes,
Sorry.
I wish I had listened to my financial planner. Because when you make a lot of money, you think you will always make a lot of money. And sometimes not making a lot of money has nothing to do with how good you are. It means things can happen to you, you can stand in your way. For example, in 2008, I broke my leg in 2 places and could not walk for 9 months. So I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't even get on my scooter. I mean, I can't walk anyway, but I couldn't get on my scooter, so I couldn't go do anything. And 9 months is a big chunk out of your life. So I really wish that I had listened to my financial planner. And then the second thing is, I like Karen, am business oriented. So every year I would say, this is how much money I want to make this year. And then this is how I'm going to do it. And it would be speeches, training, keynotes, and coaching. And so then I would break it down, and then that's what I would focus on. And I made a decision, I don't know when, but early on, that I wanted to make $500,000 in a year. That was my dream. And I did that in 1999. And a friend of mine, we went to lunch, and he said, why are you killing yourself? Because, I mean, I was literally killing myself to do that. And it's really interesting because that's also the year that I got kidney cancer and, had major surgery and all that kind of stuff. And that put it in the proper perspective. Wait a minute. Really think about, are you just, I was never in it just to make money. But to me, the more money I made, the more people I was helping. But that's really not necessarily true. So those are the 2 things that I wish I had done differently is, maybe just cut back a little bit and enjoyed a little bit more at that time, which I enjoy a lot now. And then really, and I'm telling y'all, you can make a lot of money in this business. But like my financial planner said, Sue, this is you make money, it goes right through your hands like that. And learn to close your hand up. So don't live on what you make. Live on less than what you make. and save some for days which you don't think things are gonna happen, and they do. Okay.
Okay, Jimmy?
I would ditto that very much. Ditto, 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 ditto. Not so much a regret, but things I should have done is better financial planning. Because I'm looking at my career and I'm looking how many more years I have in certain markets I'm in. That means I have to change my market and change other industry realistically. So that's one thing's very heavy. I think things that I would have done differently is probably implement some of the ideas I learned at NSA quicker. We get all these ideas and they sit on the shelf. I'll wait a few days. If you walk out here with an idea, implement it immediately. Work on it tonight, this weekend, next week. Get some action behind it, or it's going to collect dust somewhere. That would be other. I would say also in my career is understanding technology sooner and faster, what's out there. And one more thing, it probably written books earlier.
Yes, that too.
Okay. Karen, do you wish you'd done anything differently?
I think I wish that I would have been braver because I have, even though I seem confident, there's this little cocky, sad little part of me that's afraid. And so there's things like bureau showcases or opportunities. I should have pushed myself more in the beginning to get out there. I didn't think I was good enough. And I had this, I'm not good enough, because I would go to NSA and see all these people who I thought were so much better than me. And I really had this kind of piece of me that didn't branch out. I did my first showcase a couple of years ago, and it was frightening, and it was frighteningly good. Because first of all, I saw other speakers, and second, I'm much harder on myself than the critics were. And so I'm starting to see that maybe some of you are your own worst enemy. You've got to be gutsy in this business, and you're going to fail. You're going to fail. My biggest, I don't know if that's a question, but I screwed up for a bureau. And I knew I screwed up because I took a job that I really didn't, it was Carol Posey, a job that I didn't really fit into, but I took it because I would take anything back in the early days. And I didn't do very well. And I never called her. I was afraid to call her because I didn't want to hear the bad news. So I feel like we have to be more fearless. And I hope this isn't, you don't take this the wrong way, but you're probably going to suck in the beginning. And you need to really know that. Not know it, because if you know it, you'll never do it. But you'll know it when you look back on it. Because you're going to think you're awesome right now and good. And then 5 years from now, you're going to go, oh my God. Because you're going to get so much better. Every year you're going to get better. Every time you go up on stage, you're going to get better. And so you need to just push yourself to put yourself in uncomfortable situations earlier, for me.
And then part of that is having a thick skin. Would you agree? You have to have a thick skin to be in this business and stay in this business and not take feedback personally. You know, you're a great speaker, blah, blah, everyone comes up to you after and say how awesome you are, and then you get the evaluations and one person says, oh, she should be this guy's this.
I totally disagree. I think you should take the criticisms. I think we think we're greater than we are. I think so many speakers think they're awesome because you're listening to all the good stuff. But sometimes those criticisms, that's the breaking point that you're going to get better. You know, you're going to read that one, and it may hurt in the beginning, but that is there for you to grow.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but don't take it personally, just use it as a tool to make you better, to make you grow, help you grow. But don't take it personally. There's too many people here with thin skins, and then they just totally go under with it. So anyway, good. Next question is, Sue, what is the one thing you would tell people today wanting to get into the speaking business? And that would be a large part of our audience today.
Okay.
One thing you would tell them.
Okay. Let me put my glasses on because I answered this and oh yeah. Okay, if speaking is really your passion and you really want to do this, then make a commitment to be as good as you can and do not practice where you want to be hired later. Yeah, I mean, you've heard, I'm telling you. So if you think you're going to do a lot of business in Houston, then go to the little outside towns to do all your practicing. Because as good as your last talk was, is as good as those people will ever think you are until they hear you again. And if they don't think you're good, they're not going to hear you again. So make sure, decide who your target market is, and then make sure you are prepared for them when you're ready to speak for them. And the other thing is to keep tools around you so that you can stay pumped up and motivated when you have those days when you feel really bad. And I have a couple of, one is I truly do use the I'm great, I'm terrific, I'm the best. And I also use the answer how instead of why. And then, why am I not good enough? Why can't I get more business? Stop. How? Okay, Sue, how can you get more business? Well, I don't know. Well, if you did know, what would you do? And I always ask myself that question. If you did know, what would you do? We always have the answer. So have some tools. I also listen to, like Karen, I'm always listening to motivational, educational CDs. I listen to Joel Osteen. I record him and listen to him on TV over and over and over, the same thing. And also read the Daily Word every day. So whatever you can do to keep yourself pumped up, because we pump others up and then we forget to do it for ourselves. And you've got to keep yourself up if you want to help others.
Okay, Jimmy, what is the one thing you tell people today wanting to get into business?
I think a story someone gave me in 1982. I remember the day I went to a Rotary meeting, and the guy I sat next to, took me 6 months to get the courage to sit next to him. His name was Walt, 94 years old. He sang the national anthem every week there. And I asked him one question. He was very successful. Why do you owe you success to? He gave me 2 words. They've haunted me ever since. Hope they haunt you. And the 2 words are remain teachable. Mm-hmm. Remain teachable. I'm going to promise you, you can get to where you think you're good. You're going to start believing your own press releases. I caution you. I have been there. Every speaker I know has been there. If they say they haven't, they're lying. Never get to where you think you know it all. Mm-hmm. There's always room for growth. As a new speaker, please understand, I would recommend highly the ways you can get experience. When my travels, people ask me, how do you speak? How do you get started? They don't want to hear my answer. My question to you, as I ask them, what's the key to speaking? And they'll give me 10,000 things. Know your material, be passionate, yada, yada, yada. And I said, the key to speaking is speaking. You cannot become good by speaking once a year. Go, like you said, around town, little small towns, everywhere, pay your dues. Get that experience. That's how you learn audiences. And the thing is, think about, I put here, become a sales promoter like I did, or career track, adjunct professorships. All these things, you can get involved, get in front of people.
Okay, good. What about you, Karen?
Well, yesterday, I did listen to Joe Calloway and to Larry Wingett, and I felt like, well, I could have been there with them, because they were saying everything I was going to tell you guys. I think that video made me busy, and I'm going to say it over and over. I was afraid to be videoed, and I didn't realize how big YouTube would become. My YouTube channel is hit now. We've made it like a TV station, and there's just clips on it. I don't care if you're a beginner speaker, video yourself. There's going to be 2 seconds in there, 2 minutes in there of greatness. I don't mean that there won't be an hour of greatness, but at least you're going to find 2 minutes of it. We don't want your whole video. When we first started, it had to be your whole video, and that was pretty tough. People, right now, the attention span, I just listened to Sally Hogshead yesterday. The average person is on YouTube 9 seconds. 9 seconds is not very long. So if you put up a minute clip to a minute and a half clip, you need to start looking at yourself. You are speakers. That's what we do. And so many times we write what we say, we get it all out there, and we've got a lot of words on our website, but you're a speaker. So a really famous speaker called in yesterday and asked Joe and Larry if he needed video on his website, and they both said yes. It's like the #1 thing right now. So I would invest the time and the money in the video first, because if you're going to get great, then you need to look at yourself, you need to study yourself, and you need to bring somebody else in to watch the video to find your greatness. You're going to say something that's going to be a callback. It's going to be a phrase that you use all the time that you don't even know as you're speaking, but something is going to come out of your mouth that is great. Like Cecilia takes the pain out of change, and we found that in a video, and that's now her big tagline. And I'm loving watching her videos. I sat on her YouTube channel the other day because she's got little clips of herself. That's going to get you booked. Better than a great one-pager. And I'm a little bit, kind of going to be on the technology side. But come on, we just heard Brouchard. Did anybody go to the conference where we heard Brian Brouchard say that in 2 years, video will be 90% of the internet? And so I would say, video, I have it right here, video made me busy.
Very cool.
That makes time to the next question, because the next question is, for all of you that have been speaking, coaching, consulting a long time, what are the most significant changes about today's market? And possibly that would be the way people are looking and finding speakers, would you say?
I've got this one down.
Bookings they're a lot faster now. Used to they were a year, 2 years
lead
out. Now
times.
it could be next week. It could be in 30 days. So that's one of the things that are happening. Also, what I have found is that organizations, associations, corporations have no problem paying celebrity speakers. It's amazing to me. Like Teresa said, I have this bureau, but it's basically just for marketing for people. But I do get some calls sometimes, and trying to get just not very high fees for speakers is almost impossible. And yet they'll call and they'll give me a name, and I'll go, that person's $25,000. Oh, that's okay. Because he's a celebrity. They're either on, have had a lot of national exposure, publicity-wise, or they have books. And they're an expert at something, or a celebrity, sports, whatever. So I think, I know that they've always been, but it seems to me like it's just amazing the difference about, I can't pay this for a breakout speaker, but I can pay this for the keynote.
Well, that's because, wouldn't you agree that they want that to fill the seats?
Sure, absolutely. And then the other thing was, and I really appreciate NSA understanding this now, but again, in my career, for the first 20 years of my career, I did a lot of speaking, coaching, and consulting. And a lot of my business came from that, but the coaching and consulting were not really recognized. And now then it's all recognized, because people don't necessarily just want you to come in and give them a flash in the pan and leave. They want to see the accountability follow-up. They want to see some results. Now, they still want some motivational and inspirational speakers, but they also want some accountability follow-up.
Main thing is develop your negotiation skills. Learn how to ask for the order. You may be on the client and you'll never ask them. Do I use my contract? Do you want to submit your contract? Your agreement, my agreement. Learn how to sell.
Okay. Karen?
Okay, I'm seeing a trend for me, and I thought that it was just me, but now I know from Larry and Joe that this is a big trend right now. I'm getting asked to do bundles, so in a way I'm getting more money. They're wanting me. I just did a huge conference for the American Bus Association, and I had to do 4 presentations. So you have to have a menu. Can you do 4 presentations? And every year I add a keynote. I add something to my grouping of offerings, and they're buying them. So people that brought me in, I've done the American Rental Association 4 times, and it was because I keep adding a new talk to it. So this year I have a talk called Listen Up, and it's not my favorite, but they bought it, so now it's my favorite. But I'm learning now that I'm beginning to see that they're wanting you more than just for that one talk. So what Sue said is really true. They're bringing in huge keynoters right now, and these are celebrities. These aren't people that I even know in NSA. These are really big name speakers, and then they're having keynoters do the breakout sessions. And that was what they both agreed to yesterday too. So those of you that do breakouts, now you're competing with keynoters doing breakouts. And breakout sessions are 300-400 people now. They're not just 25 people. So it's like you're keynoting to a breakout, but the difference is they want content. So people have been fed with the TED. So now we want you to be everything. We want you to be content rich. We want you to be entertaining. We want the whole package from you. And I think that in a way, this packaging, it's a lot more fun. Because for me, I'm making more money because they're keeping me there longer. So if your fee is reasonable, maybe under 10,000, maybe under 15,000. If your fee is reasonable, I think you're getting booked today. And so I think that the professional speakers who are not celebrity speakers, whose fees are quite high, they may be suffering more because I think they're being competing with the celebrities. What else do I have here? Okay, I wrote down, don't do everything, do the right things. Man, I hate webinars. But Crystal, the person I'm working with social media, she hates being in front of audiences. She loves webinars. So I'm doing these webinars with her. Well, I'm finding that when I do it with another person, I enjoy it. So now we're doing it more like a radio show rather than me teaching on a webinar. Find your style. You may want to do interviews on webinars. They're asking for webinars. People want you to do that. It may not be your cup of tea, so start to add some creativity to it. If you're better with 2 people, maybe that might be your shtick. The first one, do them for free. You're learning, and for me, the mic always goes out. There's always a technological problem, and what I've learned from Crystal is we have to just roll with it. We know these things are going to happen. So for you perfectionists, you don't have to be perfect. If a webinar goes down, you could even say, if this webinar goes down, I'll get back with you, whatever. But things do happen. So I'm finding that I don't really like doing certain things. If I have to do them, I'm trying to find the way that I can do them where they're not quite so painful, or just say no. You don't have to do everything, okay? But people are asking us to do a lot more Skyping, webinars. What else? Anything? Anybody? Doing anything else creative? Did anybody watch 60 Minutes where they had the, what's the name of the university, began with a K? Oh, the guy who's teaching trigonometry on YouTube. Did anybody see that? Oh my God, it was so exciting. 60. Yes, Khan Academy. I got so excited, not because of what he was doing, although it was very cool, but he had this awesome microphone that I want to go buy now. So sometimes you have to make your surroundings what you like, Maybe if I got that big microphone, I'd like to do a webinar more than that little mic I've got on my ears. It's fun.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, we're in time crunch here.
Sorry.
Ed, do you have a question?
Actually, it was a couple statements and okay, I'll limit it to one question. First statement is, there's 20,000 meetings every day. The industry hasn't disappeared. You only need one. And if you have one a day, there's 365. That's a lot of speed. And the fact of going online and being YouTube is critical, which takes me to my question for Karen. How long is your video? Your demo video, but my real question is on YouTube. How long are your segments that you're putting on YouTube?
I did one for a few. I did a teaching one. I'm doing video blogging now. It's called Lessons from the Road, and I got excited about this one lesson. And I think, Mike, how long was it? 9 minutes? And people were writing me too long. And then I put the really good information at the end, and someone said you've got to redo it. So put your good stuff in the front. I would make them shorter. No one is asking for a demo from me anymore, so I must not be getting the big conferences. I am getting booked, I'm getting really great bookings direct right now. I work with like 6 bureaus. Nobody asks for a demo anymore. They're just picking things off of YouTube. How about you, Ed? Do they want a demo?
Still demos. Look at Randy Page's new demo.
Okay.
20 minutes.
Okay.
Amazing.
I will.
I will too. Good.
I'll just
Thanks.
tell you personally, when I go to YouTube, if it's more than 3.5 to 4 minutes, I don't want to look at it. And if it's only less than a minute, I don't want to look at it. So 3 to 4, and you've got several of them that are 3 to 4 minutes. They're great. I've watched them.
On YouTube, I'm hearing that as a recommendation.
Yeah.
But, we keep putting it on the X generation or the Y generation.
Yeah.
We're boomers. We don't do more than 3 minutes.
That's right.
We have to do sound bites today.
I've got about 10 videos on my YouTube channel, and most of the clips are, Mike, they're about 4 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. And then I have my signature story, which is about 10 minutes. So you can get a choice of that. And I've only picked 3 of them to put up on my website. So people just pick, and people are saying, the meeting planners are getting younger. I will add that to what Karen was saying. The audiences are younger, the meeting planners are younger, so they have the attention span of a gnat. And so, so these little 30-year-olds that book you, they make up their minds basically within 2 minutes. I'd say 2 to 3 minutes for your clips.
Last thing to Karen's point about breakout, I did a breakout for Sherm. I had 1,800.
See? A breakout.
A breakout.
So we're seeing it's very different, isn't it? It's very interesting.
All right, we've got a ton of questions and very little time. Sorry, yes, Mike?
What?
We've got 5 minutes.
Okay.
What's your best question?
That's my best question.
Oh,
Wow.
I think you've left it
Okay,
at the end.
biggest mistake
Should be
or
at the end.
biggest best practice?
Best practice.
Best practice? Let's do best practice. Best practice. Sue, skip your notes.
skip my notes.
Sorry.
Okay, mine was, best practices are, number one, to create your own material. Create your own material from within, from your knowledge. Do not try to become what others want you to be. Be true to yourself. And this is the most critical, run your business like a business. And then I have one more to tell you, which was my biggest mistake. I was working for a large chemical company, and they asked, a Fortune 500, they asked me to, that they wanted to have my intellectual information. They were going to make CDs worldwide for all their places. And I thought, what are they talking about? Intellectual information. I didn't even know what, this was in the 90s. I had no idea what they were even talking about. And so I was so busy trying to work and make money that I didn't stop and ask my mentor. I didn't do anything. So that's a big mistake. So when somebody recognizes that you're working with, recognizes your talent, believe them and work through it. Because I think that was a huge one. But run your business like a business. Critically important.
Okay, Jimmy?
Ditto that. Also, we talk about being transparent, and also, it's okay to use notes. There's a stigma out there. You got to memorize your speech. Also control your control your environment. When you walk in this room, I was here earlier. I know this room. Control the mic. Control sound system. Go early. I've gone to conferences. The speakers come in 5 minutes before they speak. I arrive 90 minutes to 2 hours minimum. I want that room to be my environment. I know what the stage is. I walk the stage. Well, look this way, look this way. Know the stage. Walk into the stage. Walk the room. Check everything. Also, highly recommend when you get to a point, buy your own microphone. Carry your own mic with you. The wireless, the lapel, or the headset. There's so many good stuff out there. I can talk on this for hours, because also follow up with your client. We speakers are leaving money on the table. We leave there, we don't follow up. There's more business. You can penetrate into the company, other companies. They know their peers. Get references. Somebody loves you. Get 5 names out of them, of their local peers in that industry. We can go on and on and on about the process. Also, I'm going to give you one magic thing. It's going to save your voice. This lady gave me this many years ago this is like what? How many ounces is this? Whatever. Okay, 12 ounces. Go to the store, a natural food store, and buy pure peppermint oil. What'd I say? Pure, not the flavored garbage, pure peppermint oil. And here, I'll put 10 to 12 drops of peppermint oil. Room temperature. I will consume this before I speak at least 15, 20 minutes. I can't explain it. It will coat your vocal cords. I have done, and I don't do them often like I used to, a 5-day seminar, and my voice is still fresh. I drink a lot of water. Do not drink coffee before you speak, or milk, or caffeine sodas. Your voice is your livelihood. I know 2 friends of mine cannot speak anymore because they've lost their voice. That was their livelihood. So this is very serious business. Protect yourself. We can go on because of time. I'll just give you that bit.
Okay, thank you. Karen, best practice.
I'm all about relationships. The people that hired me that first year here in Houston, I still work with them. I get called back a lot. I'm about just keeping the meeting planner in my life. And the way that I do that is through branding. I have a very funny Christmas card, maybe you've gotten it. I send it out to everybody that ever hires me, and every year I change it, and I get notes back on the card. I try to send out a Valentine's card to bureaus or to meeting planners. I have a T-shirt I send people occasionally. But even if you hired me in 2000, you're going to be in the cycle where I just keep the relationship going. And when people call me, it's like I just talked to them. I just got a call from Jody Miller with IRA. That was my I remember that speech as if it was yesterday, but it was one of my very first speeches here in Houston. And she called me like we've been talking. I haven't talked to her in years. And I think it's because I use social media to connect with a lot of the bureaus. I'll send a tweet to people. It's amazing if you mention people in Facebook, if you tag them and you write something nice about them, it's like you've just given them a gift. So my best practices for me is that I just keep those relationships going all the time.
Yeah.
And it's worked. Another one is the branding. I'm very conscious of everything that I put out there, that it has the look on it, and I really try to keep that humor going. So I try to think of things. I think sometimes humor is a hard thing to represent, but I try to put funny things on Facebook occasionally, and it's just keeping that brand alive. It's much easier to build an online brand than it is a face-to-face brand. So be very aware of what you put out there, what your website looks like, what your YouTube channel looks like. It all has to fit into that brand you.
Excellent advice from our panelists. Would you agree? If there's no questions, so I'm going to hand this mic back to Mike. And can you really please give a big hand to our panelists for donating their time, their expertise, sharing. Jimmy Cabrera and Karen McCullough.
Thank you, Teresa. What an amazing day today. As I was standing in the back of the room, just kind of thinking over what we've experienced. Our board this year had made a specific and calculated decision that our focus was not on numbers, it was on lives. We discussed it. It's not on numbers, it's on lives. That what we wanted to do was to build NSA Houston, collect a group of people who, as speakers, our goal, our intended path that we're on was to change people's lives by using our voice, by using our message. And today was just a great example of the people of our chapter coming together, being led by what I consider to be leaders in our profession, and sharing their knowledge very graciously and very willingly. So again, please, let's thank them again.
Hey, Mike, I'd like to give away a book, man.
Please do.
I'd like to give away my book, What's in Your Backpack. Anybody want it? Okay. There's a requirement. If I give you my book, you got to promise me that after you read it, you'll give it to one youth out there. Is that cool? Okay. I'm going to give away 5.
Okay.
We'll make that commitment. Okay. She was first right here. I saw your thing go up.
Thank you, Jim. The other thing that struck me this morning as we listened to our panelists speak is that we not only got a chance to have them share their talent with us, but one of the things that made them great is we got a chance to see what's inside of them, saw their heart. And I think that's the message that I'm taking away from this, is that we were intended to be us. And they challenged us to use our talents and skills simply to be us. And the more that us, the more that we impacted them. So I invite everybody to come back again in April. We have
Lois
Kramer will be here again, because this is not something we do, it's a business. And she's here to help us continue to help our profession grow, our practice grow into a business. So thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you in April. One other quick thing I forgot to mention, on the table, a little bag of buds. I brought those in, take them, take as many as you want. They came from our office. We did a bake sale Friday that was for